let's talk fight right now, super fight, which is not happening. The super fight is dead. Now the bitter aftermath. Pacquiao is fighting Josh Clottey March 13th, now at Cowboys Stadium. Floyd Mayweather still possibly clinging to that date in Las Vegas, creating a competing pay-per-view, which would be a staggeringly bad business decision for the sport itself. Clottey lost close to Cotto and Margarito. Golden Boy and Mayweather have yet to come out publicly with their next move. Most eyes in the sport now move to Shane Mosley, Andre Berto at the end of the month. By the way, that fight is in Floyd Mayweather's division. All right, let's get the very latest news on this whole situation. Dan Rayfield, ESPN.com, joins us right now via Skype. Dan, what is the latest on Pacquiao? What should we know there?
Hey, Brian. Well, the latest on Manny Pacquiao is they're rolling on with this promotion for the fight against Joshua Clottey. Pacquiao is going to arrive in the United States on a flight from the Philippines on Sunday night. Then they'll go to Dallas for a press conference to announce the fight on Tuesday. Clottey's already back in the United States. He had been visiting Ghana, where he's from. And then on Wednesday, they'll go to New York City and have a press conference at Madison Square Garden. And then those guys will head off to training camp to get ready for a big fight March 13th.
All right, so they move quickly, of course, after everything broke through with Mayweather. What about Floyd Mayweather, Golden Boy? What are they doing?
Well, that's the interesting thing, Brian. There's really not much going on right now. There's a lot of discussions behind the scenes, but they have made no real plans. You talk to the people that handle the various boxers that are being discussed as possible opponents for Floyd, and there's really no real discussion, whether that's Kermit Cintron or Nate Campbell or Paulie Malignaggi. These guys are not in any kind of serious conversations, and it leads many inside the boxing industry to believe, particularly with Pacquiao and Clottey going on March 13th, that ultimately what they're trying to do is figure out how to gracefully exit the March 13th date and have Floyd sit and wait for some other date that becomes available.
Okay, if that happens, then, if they do sit and wait, that leads you to at least the possibility of the Mosley-Berto winner. Do you think that? Do you not think that?
I think there's a slight possibility, particularly if it's Shane Mosley. He's the bigger name, and what complicates the Andre Berto situation is, of course, it will depend on how Berto looks in the fight, but Andre and Floyd are both handled by Al Heyman, and that will create some problems.
There's always problems. All right, Dan, thank you so much.
Thanks, Brian.
You see that, BJ, that doesn't even faze me anymore. Problems? There's always seeming to be a problem here. All right, this fight fell apart, not over money, but you probably heard this by now, especially if you're watching the show, over the issue of blood testing. BJ, who's most to blame for this fight falling apart?
I'm going to blame Manny Pacquiao, and the reason I'm going to say that is because this was the biggest fight in boxing. Everybody wanted to see Floyd Mayweather versus Manny Pacquiao. You know, Floyd wanted to make sure that he was coming in on even playing field, that Manny was, you know, doing the same thing that Floyd was doing. He required the Olympic-style testing, which is random testing. That would have made Manny subject to be tested anytime, randomly, and he wouldn't have been able to control that. Floyd subjected himself also to the same type of testing. I would have loved to see Manny say, you know what, listen, let's make the big fight. The fans want to see this fight. This is the biggest fight in boxing. Let's make it happen. I'll do the testing. Floyd, you do the testing. Let's make the fight. That didn't happen, unfortunately.
Let's bring in Teddy Atlas right now. Teddy, again, now that this thing is all said and done, what's your take? Who's most to blame for this fight falling apart?
Haven't we talked about this fight enough? Hasn't this kind of become like beating a dead horse? I mean, I think the people have heard enough about a fight that's not going to happen now. But since we must talk about it a little bit more, I would say that both fighters evenly are to blame for this fight not happening. I mean, you could put some blame on Floyd, too. You could say that, you know, he demanded this blood testing, and, you know, he could have went along with the concessions that were made, that the testings were going to be made in a certain kind of form where Pacquiao was allowing it. He wasn't going to allow random testing, Olympic testing, and I agree with Floyd. That's the only way you really, truly know if somebody's dirty as far as taking steroids. But they were going to take a test after the fight. They were going to take a test a month before, then 3 weeks before. Then I think they even went up to the point of 2 weeks before. So, you know, you could make an argument that Floyd made it impossible for this fight. And, you know, when a fighter doesn't want to fight, there's a lot of ways to get out. Sometimes you ask for too much money. Not this case, because there's so much money there. You $40 million. Nobody's going to argue with that. But sometimes a fight, I know this is hard to believe, but Rocky Marciano, you know, he retired undefeated. He wanted to be undefeated. That was important. He could have made more money. Maybe, just maybe, I'm going to be a devil's advocate both sides. Maybe Floyd is more important. He's a little worried about the fight. It's more important to be undefeated, and he didn't want the fight to be made. But at the end of the day, you got to blame Pacquiao, too, because with that much money on the table, if you want the fight to happen, there's only one thing you have to do. Take the blood test. Yep. It's not the first time you've given blood, and you know what? It's not the last time in your life you're going to give blood. give the blood test, but it's probably the first time you're going to give a little bit of blood and you're going to get $40 million. So if he wants the fight to happen, all he had to do, and I think the common man on the street, and those are the people I care about, the common guy on the street, the fight fan, they're going to have a difficult time understanding why somebody could make that kind of money and make that kind of historic fight would not just take a test if there was nothing to hide.
Right. Teddy, I will say this, too. Let me get back to B.J. Flores on this, too. I would say this. I've really rethought it. After talking about Mark McGuire all through the week and wondering where the clean baseball player was looking for blood testing and WADA-style testing, I now can't think that way and not think that way for Floyd Mayweather. I thought initially he was just negotiating, you know, kind of making things difficult for Pacquiao. But if what he really wanted was WADA-style testing, he should have gotten it. I'll have to say he's ahead of the curve. He deserves some credit for that. It's a shame it didn't happen, but I actually have to back Floyd Mayweather on this. Now, what should Floyd Mayweather do now? We talked about the guys that they're floating out there. Look, Timothy Bradley, if it looks like it's not happening, that's a marvelous fighter, but he's talking about good fighters, even Paulie Malignaggi, that are 140 pounds, while Pacquiao, who's the 140-pound champ, is fighting a guy 147. Would Floyd just get destroyed by fans, by the press, if he fights a smaller guy or somebody not good enough to kind of placate the fans that lost the super fight?
I think he will. I think the media will do a number on Floyd unless he fights a top guy. I think Floyd needs to sit back, wait for the Berto Mosley winner, see who wins, see how the, kind of the dust settles, and, take on a big name welterweight, namely Shane Mosley.
Look, that's perfect. I mean, it's a perfect thing, but I don't know if that happens. Teddy, what do you think? I mean, is that the move? If you're advising Floyd Mayweather, I don't know how that would work, but if you were advising Floyd Mayweather, what would you tell him to do now?
Well, I think that you wait. Look, there's no real marquee fight. Pacquiao's kind of like Ali was. Ali could fight anyone, and it could be a fight where people would buy it. Pacquiao is popular a little bit like that, where Mayweather, it's a little different. He can't just fight anyone. I mean, they like Mayweather, but it's kind of like liking a pitcher. You go to a ballpark and you watch a great pitcher, or do you watch a great home run hitter? Most people want to see a home run hitter. So Pacquiao can have his choice of who he wants to fight and sell it a little easier than Mayweather. I think if you're Mayweather, if I'm advising him, you probably wait for the winner of Berto and Shane Mosley. To me, that's the most interesting fight out there.
Yeah.
The other fights, you just touched on it pretty well. There's not too much interest. I think Timothy Bradley is a marvelous fighter.
Right.
I think he's pound for pound one of the top 3 in the world. He can fight inside. He can fight outside. He has a heart this big. He knows how to fight. He can do everything. He's got real fast hands. He's got great skill sets. But he's not a marquee name yet.
Not yet,
Where,
right.
again, with Mayweather, you can make that a real bonanza. You can make that a real bang.
Right. Oh, with Mosley. Yeah, and you could say that's the welterweight championship of the world right there. That's easy to sell. There's been so much trash talk back and forth with Mosley and Mayweather. It'd be beautiful. Let's see. If Floyd does that, then, beautiful. Beautiful. That makes up for it. Teddy, thank you so much. We're putting up, see what Manny Pacquiao has done here in our Just for Men Keep Your Edge. He's kept his edge. Take a look at the work rate of Manny Pacquiao. And Teddy touched on this. Again, if these guys go head-to-head in a pay-per-view, I have a feeling Floyd would get crushed by Pacquiao in a business sense. I know he'd hate to hear that, but Pacquiao brings it. Take a look at the power punches thrown over his last 3 fights per round. Power punches per round, BJ. What's your work rate? Forget it, BJ. I'm sorry. 45 per round. It's impossible. Landed 24 per round. Connect percentage over 50% over his last 3 fights. Absolutely sensational. We're asking you, will you watch Manny Pacquiao, Josh Clottey? Again, look, he's going to the loser's bracket. I hate to say it that way, but he already beat the guy who beat Clottey, Miguel Cotto. So where's he going? Will you watch it? 66% saying no. It'll be very interesting, even if it's just the one fight that's going on March 13th. Very interesting to see what the pay-per-view buy rate will be. I think there's going to be a little backlash out there. We'll see how much.